Yeah, I have a very different outlook right now towards nature and towards gardening. Since I've been here in Ecuador, I've changed the way I have gardened 100%. I have this attitude now where I say, okay, nature, I want you to create a ground cover here, get this all growing in for me. This is a gravel pit underneath. I need nature to take care of it, to get soil to go into the gravel, to get roots to go into the gravel, and get this entire shoreline here covered with life. Asking nature to do what nature does best is the easiest way to garden. You have to understand that nature has its objective to do what it wants to do. It has the objective to grow the way it wants to grow. The only job of the gardener or the environmentalist or whatever you want to call yourself is to give the raw materials to the ground, to the landscape, that nature does the rest. You know, as a gardener, a lot of times you have to start to learn new tricks. You have to learn new ways of getting the job done. This idea of using the least amount of energy to get, for example, this area completely covered with life is a very valid way of doing gardening because you're allowing nature to do what nature does best. Nature will devour this area that is close to the river that always gets washed out, and it'll put a really strong layer of green life on top of this gravel. This gravel is about, 6 feet deep, and it'll dry out very quickly if you don't water it all the time. By adding this beautiful river silt on top of here, we've made this change of the sand situation. The sand will have now all these beautiful river silt components mixed in with the grains. What that'll do is it'll store water a lot better than just this pure sand. We're putting a lot of leaves and compost. We're turning this into a really organic place where life can take place, where green matter can take over. I think humans have to humble themselves a little bit more. They have to really understand that nature has the power. Nature is incredibly forceful. Nature can get areas covered with vegetation in weeks. Nature can do all these things. And gardeners have to sort of say to themselves, okay, I have all these seeds. They have all this built in energy. They have all this built in power. Let me release them. Let me give those seeds what they need to jumpstart this hill, for example, to make sure that there's no erosion here. Let me use diversity. Let me use plant diversity. Let me use plant selection to make the right choices in the right places to get these problems that are in the garden solved. If you can look at gardening very differently and you say to yourself, look, nature has all this design built into it, it has all these diverse elements to it. If I put trees in that grow higher, they will provide shade. If I have roots that go really deep from plants, I'll have the earth protected. If I plant seeds that are completely covered in flowers, I will attract all kinds of insects. If I have the insects show up, the reptiles have something to eat. So that circularity of using nature to our best ability is a learned behavior. And I've learned that here in Ecuador, that life attracts life. Life is the beginning of everything. Life covers the ground from overheating. Life keeps my soil alive. There's all this element of jump starting life in a garden that will make everything follow behind in this slotted pattern. Everything shows up. Everything does well in your garden. We have 4 new beehives here because we have so many flowers on the property. So there's this idea that you're improving your garden simply by creating new life. You're improving your garden because you're adding additional areas to your garden. You're looking after a lot of elements in your garden that will make it move forward. We always want to understand, or we always have to understand that we need this aggressive forward movement in our garden to get ourselves to have a greener space, to have all this energy built into the garden. When something is growing in your garden, it is adding value, it is adding protection, it is adding green matter, it is adding composting materials, it is adding green manure to your garden, and you are basically hoping, this is what I do. I hope all the time that I can grow enough to keep my garden moving forward in the right direction. And growing this green matter, for example, all these beans here and other plants that are inside here, fuels this idea that green attracts more green. Having soil being incredibly healthy because it's covered, having soil incredibly strong because it has compost in it, it has worms in it, it has all these things that the gardener has added to it. And if you garden correctly, you're gardening with plant diversity, soil nutrients, soil microbes. You're actually trying to maximize all the diversity that is in your garden to an extent where your garden can't do anything else but grow these great spaces. As a gardener, your job is to jumpstart a new area in your garden, jumpstart older areas in your garden, give nature what it needs to do what nature does best. If you can do that, your garden will be immensely powerful with not this incredible amount of work that you're used to. Getting this ready with the big grasses, with the tall grasses, we have tree seeds in here, we have all kinds of medium-sized shrub seeds in here. We have a lot of beans that are perennial beans. So we've done all this work where we're saying to ourselves, we want this to be covered in 6 months. We want this to be growing so intensely that the roots are, 18 inches down into that sand. We want those roots to change the consistency of the sand into something that, the beans are putting nitrogen back into the ground. So we want that consistency of this soil to improve, to accommodate more life, to grow more life, to be a stronger energy to allow all this vegetation to take over. Not being that selective in this area, meaning we have all this mixture of diversity, makes this area even stronger. So what's happening is this forest area or this treed area is moving into the river area, helping us protect the shorelines. So this purposeful gardening or purposeful design or purposeful environmental change is very important to understand, because you don't want to kill yourself doing this work. You want to put 50 wheelbarrows of river silt here, let the river silt get into the gravel, let the seeds do all this work for you, and you'll have a much better new part of your garden. There's this real idea of using diversity to your advantage. And I've done that here in this garden. I've improved the soils with soil diversity. I've added all these different composting materials to the soils. I've done all these things correctly that, provide these plants with a 10-year lifespan where they can grow endlessly, vigorously for 10 years without really doing a lot to the garden. So this prep work and this understanding of what plant goes where, what plant is going to do what, how tall is a plant going to get, how wide is a plant going to get, how much shade is this plant going to provide, is it in the right location, is it from this area, does it belong in this zone? All these things are super important when you're laying out a garden and starting to have this idea that you want your garden to do all the work for you. You want all the choices to be correct so that you don't have to replace these trees after a while. You have to sort of plan out this entire setup of biodiversity entering your garden, doing all these great things for your garden, attracting all this fantastic life. And when you do all that, gardening is quite an easy task if you understand that there's this real um, way of getting from A to B by using everything in the right place at the right time of the year and getting everything to grow together, covering the earth, getting your garden to be a complete ecosystem.